This is another episode of the Backstage Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Connor.
I'm JT Harker.
And today we have a very special guest. Rick Selph is here with us on the podcast. What up, Rick?
What's good? What's good, yo?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Chilling.
Okay, so I see the hat that you're rocking, and I was mentioning before we hopped on air that it's two of y'all in here today. It's two of these San Fran guys, these Niner fans in here today. JT, what were you saying? You were saying something about.
So I'm born and raised in the Bay, and so there's a lot of Niner stories because where I grew up, when I was really little, we lived right up the street from Joe Montana, and his kids went to my school. So we would see Joe sometimes drop his kids off, and where we're from, he was a god, man. Like Tom Brady's a little older than me. He's from the same area, like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. My buddy lived next door to him. And then as I got older, Ronnie Lott owns, I don't know if he still does, but he owns some gyms in the San Jose area. So I used to see him at the gym all the time. And then when I graduated high school, I started working at this health club that's now called Bay Club, but it used to be called Courtside Club. Ronnie Lott would come in there. Dude, I got a story from Ronnie Lott that I cannot tell on the show.
Uh-oh.
And yeah. Okay, I'll tell the story. So before I tell the Ronnie Lott story, Roger Craig, I used to talk to Roger Craig all the time. Shout out to Ramitra Craig, his daughter, who was the best girls basketball player. She used to kick our ass, the boys' asses, like all the time on the court. Went to Duke on a full ride, and I think ended up coming back and going to USC. But she was one of the top players in the country. Mitty High School, same high school that Aaron Gordon and his brother went to.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing girls program. But and then Ronnie Lott's son went to my high school and played basketball, and I think got a full ride to Texas Tech. But Ronnie Lott's story, It's really quick. He's in there. He's at the counter, smoking hot, like, I don't know, mid 30s to 40. White mom, walks by, and he goes, man, he like kind of looks at her. He looks back at me. I'm 19 at the time, right? He goes, man, I tell you what, my two weaknesses in life, white powder and white women.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Dude, I just smirked, and I barely knew what cocaine was. I didn't even know what to fucking say, man.
You're like, okay.
I was like, that sounds good.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Awesome.
That sounds great, Ronnie Lott.
Oh,
man.
That's crazy. That's a crazy story, man.
We may have to cut that one out, but it was worth it.
No, that was golden. So for those of you who don't know, Rick is a friend of the podcast. He is he's been like a brother to me. Me and his brother went to school together. And Rick is a Connecticut resident. But you were born and raised a Niners fan, right?
Yeah. Born and raised a Niners fan.
So how did that happen?
The crazy thing is my father's a Steelers fan.
Yeah. And his brother's a Giants fan.
Yeah, my brother's a Giants fan. I'm a Niners fan. Like growing up, my dad used to watch. He's a Steelers fan. He's a Knicks fan. And he's a Mets fan.
Okay.
Right? Growing up, I like the Mets. So I'm a Mets fan, unfortunately, but I love the Mets.
Right.
I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan.
Right.
And I'm a 49ers fan. And I guess maybe because those were the hot teams in the 90s at the same time. And
you know what it is, Joe, is Rick just chooses the greatest of all time, like Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls, the 49ers organization.
Oh, so you're saying you're a bandwagoner. That's what
I'm just saying at a young
the funny
age.
thing is I have shirts when I was a kid rocking Niners t-shirts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like when I was like 7 years old, 6 years old. So you can't really be a bandwagoner.
Right.
Don't ever let Mr. Connor call you a bandwagoner because he has been a Cavs fan, a Heat fan, and a Lakers fan.
It's not true. I am loyal to the soil. I have been a LeBron fan.
That's what I'm saying.
So that ain't bandwagon. I've been riding this train. But how did everyone in your household kind of go their own separate ways as far as like?
You know what? The crazy thing is the Steelers was good back then too. Like they were decent. They were never really bad.
Right.
You know, they had Cordell Stewart and they had other people playing, so they were actually pretty decent. The problem is, I just loved. There was something
Jerome
about
Bettis.
Joe Montana. There was something about Joe Montana and that magic he had, and there was something about Jerry Rice being the GOAT and being that nice. And he wasn't crazy flashy, but he was just you know, smooth with what he did.
Yeah.
And then just watching how the team played, watching the coaching, watching the running, watching Roger Craig come out of the backfield and be able to catch and run.
Right.
Yeah. It was exciting, man.
And then defense. Ronnie Lott and watching Singletary and just them boys just playing defense. It was just crazy. It was just crazy. And then when Dion came, it was just like, whoo.
Yeah,
this
another
is amazing.
level.
This is box office. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. Dion said he came to San Francisco to go to Miami. That's where the Super Bowl was that year.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was the worst tackler I've ever seen in my life, but he did everything else very well.
So JT, you have this day in history.
Man, there's nothing exciting.
So I thought you were going to bring this one, this day in history that I swore you was going to bring up.
What's that?
Today, a couple years ago, I can't remember how long, the Golden State Warriors won their first NBA championship in 40 years.
Did they? That was today?
That was today.
I didn't see that in the sports history, damn it.
Yeah, that was today.
Well, man,
they then went on to get upset by the greatest player to ever live.
The greatest player in the last 5 years.
Up 3-1 and then losing the series. But to this day, they broke the curse and they won their first championship in 40 years.
Wow.
So that's
amazing. It is Phil Mickelson's birthday, one of the greatest golfers of all time.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay, so it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on today. Let's jump into first this NBA stuff that we got. That's kind of been all over the place today. So the first thing, everyone's heard. The NBA settled on a date to come back. It was July 31st. It's since been moved up one day to July 30th. And since then, there's been a lot of new developments and a lot of shaky ground as far as the NBA, because there was a call that happened a couple days ago where Kyrie Irving voiced his concerns about the NBA coming back and basically said that he didn't support it. I'll pull up the statement that he has right here and read a little bit of it. So he says, I do not support going into Orlando. I'm not with the systematic racism and the bull. Something smells a little fishy. And that was him on the conference call with the NBA players. So there's been a lot of mixed reaction about the message and B, the messenger. First, let's hear what you guys thought when you first heard what was going on and what was brewing with Kyrie and apparently this new players coalition that's also kind of being led by a couple of big name supporters, Avery Bradley and one Dwight Howard.
So this is my first time seeing this quote. Some of the other stuff he was saying, just as far as like, until we get this stuff resolved, we can't be. That was Dwight Howard. That wasn't he talking? Wasn't he backing Kyrie on it? Though?
He was backing Kyrie, yeah. But this was Kyrie's initial thing that came out.
This was his initial quote.
Call.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say this, and then Rick can say his thoughts. I have no idea what the fuck this means.
Right.
What the hell does this mean? I'm not with the systematic racism and the bullshit. Something smells a little fishy. Are we talking about what's going on in the country? Are we talking like? We're trying to finish a fucking season.
This is part of my issue with
Are we solving racism like today?
Right.
It's just solved? Like,
right.
I want it solved as much as anybody else does, but what are we talking about? I don't know. I don't understand. He talks in code. He believes the earth's flat. Any flat earther, I really don't care what else they have to say.
Right.
I mean, so I look at it. I see it. I see what he's saying. right?
Mm-hmm.
He could have probably expressed himself a little bit more, but it's a tweet. So, or is this something from a tweet, right?
This is Shams tweeting about what he heard Kyrie say on the call. So this was not something Kyrie put out. This is Sham and a couple other NBA reporters having some insight on from somebody who was actually on the call who heard Kyrie say these things.
Right. So like I'll say this, right? I don't think so. Unless they have a plan, right? So if Kyrie, I don't think that they should not play because just not to play, right? I think that they need to have a plan. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's pros and cons with this. Like if it's for the basketball players, for example, like so if it's about the basketball players, they should play because it will cost them billions of dollars. It'll cost the NBA billions of dollars, and it'll cost the players millions of dollars if they don't play.
Right.
All right. So if we're talking a player issue, they should play. Now we're talking about in the time that we are now, right? And black players are like literally they have the power to change society, especially our black athletes. Because if you look at the percentage of basketball players and what their nationality is in the NBA, what are they, right? So I feel like they need to sit down with Adam Silver and come up with a plan of what they want changed. I know that the NFL gave up $250 million over a span of 10 years, and that's really not that much money for what they can give, but it's something, right?
Right.
The NBA hasn't released anything about any donations or anything yet that they decide to give or anything, but there are some things that they can actually ask the NBA to do to help with systemic change in the black community and within what's going on. So
right. So part of my issue is what you were saying as far as like the planning, right? Like we all know Killer Mike, right? Killer Mike has a saying that I love that says we need to strategize, organize, and mobilize, right? Which to me are all action-based things that are going in a direction, right? So my issue with, like, for instance, let's pull up Dwight Howard's quote here. Dwight Howard was another player that was in support of what Kyrie in support of Kyrie's idea of not going back to playing to, I guess, further push the social justice cause. He says, I agree with Kyrie. I would love nothing more than to win my very first NBA championship, but the unity of my people would be an even bigger championship. No basketball until we get things resolved, right? So to me, I kind of felt like JT felt like until we get what resolved, like till we get rogue cops out of the streets, till we end racism.
Yes.
So so there's so much to do.
I felt
like
I will say, even though that's the problem nowadays with media is that they're taking quotes from something somebody says that's way longer, and we're supposed to kind of put it into context because I think Kyrie's obviously a bit crazy, but he's also a smart dude, and Dwight Howard's a smart dude. So it's like obviously there's something that reading between the lines that I don't really know about these quotes. I just know that the morale of sports helps everybody of every race, everything we've gone through this year. I just think it's huge.
You're right.
But I also do because now, man, like, and I didn't hear about this last thing till yesterday. The young kid that got hung in Palmdale. I live one town over from Palmdale. Palmdale's right here.
Yeah. Well, actually, but it's two in California.
Right. And there's somebody else, and then a guy was just shot in Georgia as well, right?
And someone hung yesterday in Georgia.
In Georgia?
Yesterday in Georgia, hung and shot this past weekend. The thing is, go ahead.
Well, and something's going on, man, and I don't want to get into conspiracy stuff, but for all this stuff to just start, man, oh man, I mean, this is like, this is disgusting what's happening right now. So, I mean, if they what they're saying, I won't disagree that what they're saying is we have the power right now while these crazy things are happening, but we're also in a position of power because of what's happening. That this is good, because I already feel like racism has taken a huge leap. Probably has to be the biggest leap in my lifetime, because I've never seen anything like what's going on right now. Yeah. So if they just feel this is the time and they have to focus on this, and I clearly I'm not in my life, like I can't understand what you guys have gone through and what these guys have gone through. Like I can give them that, but then it's they're torn. Like with black players, they're torn because a lot of guys want to play, including the King. He wants to play.
Yeah, they're afraid. So this is the main thing. They're afraid because you got to understand, like you said, sports actually puts us in our happy place, right? Like it takes our mind, it eases our mind when football's on. I remember when we were going through COVID and the NFL draft was on, that was like a highlight. Right. And The Last Dance was on, and that was another highlight, right? So, like, they know that the NBA season will take everybody's mind on for what's going on in the streets. And that's one thing that they don't want to happen. They don't want everybody's mind to be on NBA basketball, because I'm going to tell you, when LeBron hits the court, it's entertainment, it's electrifying, it's dynamite.
Here's my issue with that. Now that is something that is a double-sided thing. That's something that I can receive that a little better than the tweets and the quotes that I've been hearing from Kyrie and from that one we just read from Dwight, right? Because again, my issue with Dwight's was there was no action behind it, there was no specificity behind it, and that was also my issue with Kyrie, right? My issue with this part that I've been hearing is, to me, I disagree with it, because we can't get away from the thing that gives you the influence, right? Like, let's put this in musical terms. JT, the reason why, part of the reason why we even have this platform, or the little bit of audience that we do have from this platform, is because you're a country singer, right? You're an artist, right? So people initially know who JT is. Why? Because you sing and you travel and you have videos and you have music videos and da-da-da-da, right? So if you were to just tomorrow stop singing, it would drastically take away from the influence that you have to have a sports podcast, to talk about this or to talk about that, right? So for me, there is no bigger platform than the NBA playoffs in the middle of a world where nothing else is happening.
Yeah, and the further you get away from playing, the further the relevancy.
The further you get away from you being relevant, right? The further you get away from the thing that gives you the power to have the influence that you have. To me, especially when I don't understand this idea that, like, it's just gonna fall by the wayside, especially when you're dealing with a league that has literally been at the forefront, has been the most progressive and supportive league of all of them to their black players, right?
That's
this
true.
Is the league that printed the "I Can't Breathe" shirts. This is the league that allowed LeBron and D Wade and Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony to stand up there on the night of their award show and literally shut everything down so they can let their voices be heard about the black plight and about social injustices, right? So this is the league who has not only said we will work hand in hand with you to get your message heard, but they've done it.
Right.
So this idea that, like, we can't come back because our message is just going to fall by the wayside, to me, it doesn't jive with what's been happening in reality. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying 100%. The only thing I would say to that is a couple of things. The first thing is, you're right, this league has done that for them. But they've already did the "I Can't Breathe," fist in the air, locking the shoulders, and kneeling in both leagues, right? And that hasn't accomplished anything. The main problem is the focus has been on just basketball at that point, though. They're still playing basketball. They could do press conferences, talk about it. They could wear the shirts, talk about it. That's going to get tiring after a while. And at the same time, us as fans, we're watching. But guess what? JT's girlfriend isn't watching. Your wife ain't watching. You understand what I'm saying?
So you're losing the non-basketball fans that are missing the message.
Right. So if they're following LeBron's social media account, because I know tons of people that don't even watch basketball that follow LeBron on his social media, and when he posts something like the whole thing about the voting in Georgia and how he's gonna step in and the lines is crazy and blah blah blah, and he's starting something. People that don't even watch basketball, they actually see that.
Right, but I think what we don't realize is that is a smaller audience, right? Like
but it's been bigger, Joe. It's actually been bigger during this whole quarantine because nobody can go outside.
I think I'm saying on as far as the logistics goes, like as far as the actual numbers, it's a much smaller audience than we think, and I think a lot of the times we get so caught up in our bubble of the because we are in the world of like the movers and shakers and the shiny things, right? Like perfect example, just to better explain with iPhone, right? Like for the longest time, because I'm a millennial and I'm around millennials and I'm around creatives, I thought everybody had an iPhone. Like in the sense of like, I thought iPhone had the majority of the market share as far as cell phones, right? They don't, right? So because that's the world that I live in, where we are the people that dominate the media, right? The athletes, the entertainers, right? You think that the rest of the world looks like that, right? I thought most people have an iPhone, right? When the majority is that Apple had a small percentage of the market share, when really the majority of people in America had a Droid or some other for it, right? So I'm saying this is the same thing that we're doing now, right? Where the majority of Americans, the majority of people in the world don't have a Twitter, right? So LeBron James's voice is bigger when he stands in front of a camera after a game than it is anything that he tweets out, right? So, and I think we don't forget that that's not only theoretically, but it's literal. Like you can look those numbers up. Like, you get what I'm saying? So I think we get away from that because we live in a world where Twitter runs everything, right? We live in a world where it's online is king and everything like that. But the majority of eyeballs happen off of social media in actuality, off of the majority of our lives of 20 something years old, of 30 something years old, the majority of us are on Twitter, right? But if we're talking about the bigger picture, we're losing the broader audience when we're not playing because they're not watching, right? Like my fiance is my age and she doesn't have a Twitter, but she does watch if I'm watching something after a game and LeBron is on giving a press conference, she's watching that. You know what I'm saying? If he said something on his platform after a game or in practice on TV that's getting broadcast to ESPN, ESPN reaches more people than Twitter does. You get what I'm saying? 100%. So I just feel like we're losing sight of the fact that them playing is giving them a bigger platform to do, and not only is it giving them a bigger platform, but to what you were saying about the money aspect of it, right? Like it takes money to do these things. It takes money for them to allocate it to HBCUs or to allocate it to research or forcing police departments to go through training to social issues or social sensitivity training. All of those things that we will want them to donate to. It takes money to that. So now we're not playing
revenue.
Well, I wasn't having them do that though. I think the NBA, because you got to understand they're a business, right? The NBA needs to do that. They need to.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it takes money for them to do that. No, not the players. No. I'm saying it takes money for them to do that, and if they are not fulfilling this contract with the TV revenue.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna have a trickle down effect where it's gonna affect the NBA. Right, not only this season but next season. So now we're talking about things that we want them to allocate funds to, but we're not taking into account that if we're not playing, those funds aren't coming in. And not only are we hurting the league's ability to do that, but now we're hurting the players because players like Austin. Everybody thinks that everybody in the NBA is getting paid like LeBron James, right? And Austin Rivers comes out and says, "I need that money." I'm the caretaker for my family, and if I want to do the things to help my community and my family, I need that money to get paid, and I can't really afford to take a pay cut. And we hear that, and we think that it's crazy, but then we hear the one of those other players that was on one of the podcasts, might have been All the Smoke. They asked him, how many players do you think realistically are living paycheck to paycheck? He said, if I had to put a number on it, it would be 80%.
I believe that.
That's crazy.
The funny thing you said, so I do agree with you, and that's why I said that they need to come up with a plan. If the NBA decides not to do anything to combat systematic racism, then they don't play. But I just said they should play, but they got to come with a plan. Like the NBA has to come with a plan to help, because I'm gonna tell you, this is like, and I know just like JC said, you've never seen anything like this in ever. Like everyone protesting over, you'll see it in LA riots and stuff like that in that area, or in Georgia, but every state they're doing this. So you got to capitalize on this moment. And that's the only reason why I said they should play, but it should be a plan with the NBA, because they have the most power. Because just think about the NFL. You had Kaepernick when he did that in 2016, right? And if all the black players would have said, you know what? I see you're blackballing Kaepernick. We're not going to play. Damn well Kaepernick would have been on the team.
You're right. That's what happened in the college. What was the college team where they wanted?
I know you're talking about.
They wanted the president of the university fired because he said or did something. I don't remember what it was.
He got fired.
They just the threat of it. They never missed a game. They never missed a practice. They literally just like sent a letter to the university basically saying, if y'all don't fire him, we're not going to play. 3 days later he was out of there. So I agree, but that to me is going back to what Killer Mike said: organize, strategize, mobilize. Like that to me is an action thing. With the stuff that was coming out with Kyrie was just like,
I do.
Just
you know what Killer Mike said. Like the whole concept of that speech too was don't burn your own house down. Mm-hmm. And by not playing, you're kind of starting to burn the house down, because players need to get paid. The league needs to get paid. Yeah, the league's fine, but in order to make a difference, you need money. And it look, the reality is it's for sure 100%. What I think a big concern is that it's going to be a distraction, which is a good thing, but it's a distraction in the same way. Joe and you and I were talking the other day about how like the whole George Floyd thing is really fishy. It's tragic, but it's also fishy because now the whole Blackout Tuesday, is that what it was called? Blackout Tuesday happened on the day Hillary Clinton is in court on charges of insane things that they didn't want attention on. So I think they're like, man, you know, we're fighting racism. We got the biggest platform we've ever had in our lifetime, in our generation. And now, it's great that people want basketball back, but it's going to be a distraction away from what we're trying to accomplish. The hard thing is hearing Kyrie say it, is that Kyrie's not even playing this year.
That's
you know what I mean?
Like, that's the tricky thing for me. When I started this, I was saying also the messenger for me. So Kendrick Perkins, and I want to show this real quick. So Kendrick Perkins came out and he basically said that his issue with what Kyrie was saying was that he felt like it was disingenuous. And then when they asked him why, he basically said, "Oh wait, let me okay, make sure you guys can see it." He basically said what changed is Kyrie, the Players Association voted on this date to come back to the NBA unanimously, like 100-0, right? And then when they had like I don't know if Kyrie was a part of a phone call or something. I think it was a player's call that he was on where he was on board with it. And apparently he actually asked what type of liquor they would have in Orlando. Right. So not only was he down, but he was like preparing for the turn up. You know what I'm saying? So when I heard him start making this, it to me, it felt like he was just kind of being a disruptor. This was before that last comment that I put up said, right? So let's look at this real quick. Kendrick Perkins said, what changed about Kyrie Irving? The NBA told him he couldn't go to Disney World, right? So they said there was a timeline behind it. So on May 26th, protests start with the over the death of George Floyd. On June 4th, NBA owners approved resuming the NBA season with 22 teams at Disney World. On June 5th, Kyrie Irving, who was out for the season due to injury, reportedly expressed interest in joining the Nets at Disney World to support his teammates. Now, this is something that I saw a tweet myself that Woj tweeted out on June 5th, that Kyrie was interested in going, even though he wasn't playing. He wanted to go to support his teammates. June 5th, the National Basketball Association, which counts Irving as a vice president, approved the format. Okay. By the 10th, Brian Windhorst, who co-wrote a blueprint on how the NBA could resume in a bubble and is well connected throughout the league, says, no, Kyrie, you're not going in there because the whole point of this is to keep it to as few people as possible. So they wanted they wanted to be essential people only. Like the teams are actually only allotted a certain amount of number, so they have to really parse through like the medical staff that they're going to bring, the trainers that they're going to bring, all of this stuff. So inactive players was essentially, waiting. They're essentially washed out in this. Once they kind of got the plan down to like the nuts and bolts, they said we shouldn't be bringing players that's just going to sit on the bench or whatever. So at that point, Kyrie was notified along with the other inactive players that you guys aren't allowed to come. On June 12th, leading a video conference call with other players, Kyrie Irving reportedly said that he was against playing in Orlando.
So it was just simply that they just told him he couldn't go.
To me, I felt like it was disingenuous from the beginning. You know what I mean? Because you're not playing anyway, right? So in my mind, you were never really going in my mind. And then to come to find out that he wanted to go and they actually told him that he couldn't go. So you was down to go, and then that turned from, all right, F it, nobody should go. And so I was kind of turned off by hearing it from the messenger from the first place, because I didn't like a lot of the weird stuff that I was hearing from him asking about the liquor and stuff like that. Like, to me, it's like, and then I'm already suspect on Kyrie because, again, he a flat earther. He just one of those contrarians to me, like where he just here to fuck shit up. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy that you said that, because when I originally heard Kyrie say no, I thought it was all because of the COVID-19 situation.
That's what I thought too.
I was hearing a lot about that because all the players are going to be locked in that bubble in Orlando. And between 8 to 10 weeks, they can't leave that bubble. And then they can't leave a bubble unless they're out of the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah.
Their family can't come in and visit them for 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So they're just stuck in one little place. So, I thought that was a major, situation or like reason why he didn't want to come.
I'm gonna be honest though, Joe. If we ever are on tour in Florida and we're supposed to go to Disney World and you tell me that you guys are going but I can't go, listen, nobody's going. I'm telling you that right now. Nobody else is going if I can't go. I don't want any surprises if we tour through Orlando.
If we going to Disney World, I'm going to Disney World. Okay, period. Like, it's no way that I'm not going to Disney World. But I think I thought it was a part of the COVID thing too, because I was hearing that there were players that were nervous about that. Like, I heard one of the players said, that his wife was pregnant or something, and he was nervous about going and coming back and infecting her or something like that.
And that makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me, But it turns out that like I guess it's true that there are some players who still have some concerns, but the reality of it is all of this was locked in when they took that vote on June 10th or whatever. Like, everybody was on board. That's the weird thing about what is happening now. And now they have this players coalition, this anti go back to work players coalition. That's a couple of players. I don't know how I've heard that it's like 10 so players. I heard it is 100. So we don't really know how many players are involved. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. What'd you say?
The crazy part about this is, if you think about it, the more of this situation is going to lean towards Kyrie, the more things that's happening. It seems like you would think after the George Floyd, like things would be like, okay, like the Chiefs are like, yo, no lethal force. You know what I mean? No matter what, they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's still happening. So for people to be getting hung and police still shooting unarmed people, or especially with the Rayshard Brooks situation. I know he had the taser situation, he took it, but it was a non-lethal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like he didn't have to get shot like that.
Yeah.
So just these things that's happening right now, that regardless of anything, is still going to affect the people's mind. And I haven't heard anything from LeBron since from this weekend on. So I'm just curious to see what he's going to talk about.
Well, speaking of LeBron, you took us into something. There was a tweet that came out regarding LeBron and regarding also the returning of the players back into the NBA season. It said, "Hooper, say what y'all want. If at King James said he hooping, we all hooping. Not personal, only business." Now, there's been mixed reactions to this tweet, right? I initially didn't have a problem with this.
My favorite, you left out the best part. Stay woke.
Oh, stay woke. Stay woke. Hashtag stay woke was at the end of it for those who are not watching. So I initially didn't have an issue with this tweet, but then somebody else came out and said in the comments that like he was taking a jab at LeBron or something like that. What was your reaction with this? And how did you receive it?
I honestly don't think he's taking a jab. It's funny because you would think his personality would be, but in this case, I don't feel a jab is taking place. I think that he's really actually showing LeBron love. Like he knows what time it is. He knows LeBron's the best player, in the league, in his opinion. Right now. I think Kevin Durant's still the best player in the league right now.
That's out of
another
control.
Day. When healthy. But anyways, but he's really he's really behind King James in this situation. He's not tweeting that he put up the fist that already canceled out that he's actually like throwing jabs.
Yeah. I think he wants to play, and he knows that LeBron's the biggest name. LeBron wants to play.
Right.
We're playing.
And if he wants to play, we're playing. If he says we're not, we're not.
And then he's gonna get on the court with LeBron and call him a bitch and try to beat his ass.
Of course, but that's all basketball. But he respects him as a man, as a person.
I agree. I think it's respect, and it's like, man, he obviously wants to play.
That's how I took it. And then so some people took it as him saying because of the timing that it came out, kind of in the middle of this issue, the stuff with Kyrie and the comments about Kyrie's comments on the call came out. They took it as him saying, "I know that y'all might not want to play, and y'all might want to, go about the social issue and focus on that, but it's about what LeBron says, and whatever LeBron says is gonna go. So if he want to go, then we're gonna go. Like F what y'all feel." That's what some people said that's how they took it. So when I heard that, I'm like you said, Rick, knowing Pat Beverley, I'm like, oh, is that how he meant it? Like I wasn't sure. But I didn't take it as that. I took it as like, you know what I'm saying? I want to play, but in reality, if he is our leader in this, he is the face in this, and he's saying we hooping, and if he's saying we hooping, then we hooping. So everybody just get on board. That's kind of how I took it.
What's funny is some people did take it in a negative way, saying that, we're going to put it all on his shoulders so he can take all the flack.
Right.
So if he does say we're not playing, everybody could get mad at him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they try to like twist it in that way. I don't see it that way from what he tweeted. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that that's how it was either. So there's a lot going on, not only with the NBA's comeback situation kind of being in flux, but with baseball. There was a comment, I think today, from the commissioner that basically said he's not confident that there'll be a season at all. JT, you can tell us more about what's going on with this.
Yeah, so baseball has been a mess from the get-go because I guess it's always good to be prepared, but they've been getting made fun of in media for a while because they've had a plan. They're like, all right, new plan. They've had a new plan every week since quarantine started.
Yeah, that's what it literally
had.
It's hard to kind of keep up with it.
It's like there's so many plans, and each time it's getting shot down for obvious reasons. But this is the thing that I've followed that it looks like. Manfred, the commissioner, says it's unlikely that they'll play baseball again this year. But a lot of people are taking that as a stance that he's actually, because they've also agreed that every player can get their full prorated salary, which is new. That was not a thing before. So
because I heard that before it was, I heard that it was a dispute about the salary. Like some of them didn't want to come back with a prorated salary, and they were arguing over that.
There was a dispute about that, but it was because it was prorated, but there was another twist to it. But now he's saying full prorated salary, so you're getting your full salary for the season we're going to play. But then also saying, which is weird to say in both in the same thing, that you're also probably not going to play this year. So it's weird, but a lot of people feel like that's actually going to flip the script and make them actually end up having a season this year because the players are going to want to play.
Come back to the table.
Yeah, but then there's still other people who are just taking it for face value and saying he really doesn't feel that there's going to be a season. But right now it's 6 to 8 teams out of the however many teams there are in the league now that are against it. So
6 to 8 teams don't want to come back.
6 to 8 owners don't want to come back. But I think that was before he said all these things. So does that turn into 2 or 3? I don't know.
Right. Is that because of what'd you say, Rick?
Where were they supposed to play? Isn't there a location that they were thinking about?
They wanted to do something in Phoenix where they do spring training and maybe one other spot. And again, I haven't followed the baseball situation as much as I've followed the NFL or NBA or even UFC, but I think they wanted to go to where they do Cactus League spring training in Phoenix and maybe one other spot. And then they wanted to break it down to sections of the country instead of American League, National League, so financially they can make it work and then have a different type of playoff and try some different things. But I don't know. Baseball,
it's looking real shaky. It's the teams that don't want to, that are saying they're not in favor of coming back, is that because they feel like they are not going to reach an agreement on the dispute with the players, or is that like a COVID related thing?
That's a good question. I think it's both. I think it's COVID, and I think it's they don't see it being resolved with the players, which is why if I had to lean one direction, I'm saying that the commissioner is saying that he's making these decisions that you can get your full prorated salary. I think he's doing that, even though he's saying it's unlikely that they'll come back, because he thinks that's their last push to be able to make something happen.
Okay.
But 6 to 8 teams is kind of a lot.
And it's a long season too. I don't even understand how they have a deadline because they can't go past a certain point.
Right. Yeah, because it's like, what do they play? 100 something
182
games?
82? No, 162
or 62?
Something. Yeah, I think that's right. And then they can break the season down to a shorter season, but I don't know. Baseball, no one knows what's happening. That's the weird thing.
Yeah,
it's hard to get a feel for it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a super fluid situation, and it sounds like it's in real jeopardy of actually not happening. And it's been confusing to understand why, because
and baseball, have they I don't know, again, I haven't been following. I don't want to talk on these things if I don't know, but they haven't really been, I don't think they've been a player in the whole race thing at all.
No,
I haven't heard them addressing it at all.
I mean, the only thing that came up with that is Boston, right? I know you guys started a little Boston thing.
Because it's supposed to be one of the most racist places there is.
You want to know the crazy thing is Joe knows.
Yeah.
I feel like factually, I won't say it's one of because there's some places in the South that's worse.
Yeah.
But Boston is very racist, and the fans don't care. That's you know what I mean?
Because Boston, it's so funny because Boston is so heavily white, but it's also so heavily white people that have been there since their families came over in ships hundreds of years ago. It's like this old school thing. It's a weird town too. I've been there a couple times. It has that vibe. It's weird because you would think the East Coast, so close to New York and other places, that it would be diverse enough, but it's not. It's kind of stayed like that.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Actually, I experienced this, and so I went to school 4 years in Boston. Well, I was actually living in Boston for 5 years. I've only been called verbally, called the N-word one time in my life, and it was in Boston. And I was with your brother.
Wow.
I was with, and we might have told you about this, but
I heard that story.
We were walking from a party or going to a party or something like that. Walking across Mass Ave, I think it was. Which people don't know, Boston, Mass Ave, Boston is like the main street in the city. So Friday night and downtown Boston near Mass Ave, like it's a lot going on. You know what I mean? So we're walking across the street, and there's tons of people crossing the street, and there's a car that is driving the opposite. Car is driving actually the way that we're walking. This group of like guys yells out the window the N-word at us. Your brother, Chad Selph, starts darting up the street to chase this car, right? So clearly, I think at this point we were a little tipsy. Like, I think we was pre-gaming. This is like early in the night for us to even, have this energy to do this. So he starts chasing the car up the street, up Mass Ave. He's running after the car in the street though, right? So once he starts, we're like, I guess we're doing this. Like, this is
we're chasing
so we're chasing after him, chasing the car, right? So these guys were clearly not about. I think they were like some younger white guys from BU or something like that. They wasn't really about that. Like, they were clearly drunk too. Not excusing what happened, but they sounded and looked like it. Because when we started chasing the car, they booked it, right? So if you're about that life, you're not gonna book it in traffic, right? So they swerving in and out of traffic. Chad is running down the street after this car. We running after Chad. So we finally get close to the car. We chased this car for like about a block in the street, right? When we get close, the light is red. So the guy just was like, fuck it, and drove around another car and went through the red light and sped off. And I was completely exhausted and out of breath. But that was like one of the craziest experiences that I had, like, especially being in Boston. The race thing in Boston is for real.
I've never told this story before, so bear with me on this story. But me and Alex Seller.
Yeah.
We always say when guys are idiots in general, and this is just regarding anything, that, oh, there's a guy that's never been punched in the face before or never had his ass beat before. You know what I mean? And there's so many guys, and it's a lot of musicians because a lot of them weren't athletes.
Right.
And when you play sports and you're competitive, you're going to get in fights. Things are going to happen. You got to have a level of toughness. Right. But I'll tell you what, when I learned, so I grew up in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So hip-hop was at its all-time high, and the N-word was being dropped with the N being an A, not the ER, and that was a cool thing to do, right?
Right.
But I'm this obviously suburban white kid, so I'm working at my dad's warehouse, and he's got these two kids, and they're two of the top athletes, two of the top high school athletes in the area. One was Charles, I think it was Charles Tharp. He was a big-time running back, was supposed to go to Notre Dame, ended up going to University of Hawaii, breaking all their rushing records, whatever. And then the other kid was a basketball player that went to Menlo, one of the top basketball players. So they're on this program where they're working for my dad for the summer to be able to pay for the stuff they got, from poor backgrounds, whatever. We're out playing basketball. And they drop the N-word all the time. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is the cool thing to do. So we're playing. I'm this stupid little, whatever, I'm 13, 14. And I'm like, yeah. And I say it. But I've never said it before. Not only do I say it wrong.
No.
And
yes.
And Charles, and keep in mind, I damned the owner's son of this place. Charles, this big ass running back, slapped me so goddamn hard.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, if every fucking stupid, like, ignorant white dude could just experience one thing like that.
Right.
Racism would just end like this. It would just end. Because after that, he gave me a hug, and he's like, look, dude, you can't say that. And he explained why. I'm like, I totally get it. And it was never a problem again.
I totally get it.
It's fucking ridiculous. But let me ask you, in Boston, this area, is this a diverse area too? Like, why is there still so much? It's not? Okay.
Yeah, it's not really diverse. That area is not really diverse. I mean, Boston in general to me isn't really diverse. Like, you have like your your black areas, and then you have like your white areas, and the small little gray area in between is just like college campuses.
Dude,
that's all it is.
I'm trying to think of one black, Asian, or Latino person that I've heard say they're from Boston. I can't think of any. I know at least a dozen white dudes that are from Boston.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that, man. And like I said, I don't even like going out there really, you know, just because of that factor. I remember I used to come visit these dudes. Matter of fact, I remember this moment. This is actually when I first met Joe. You're going to like this one, JT. When I first met Joe, I went over to their crib, him and my brother. Were you guys roommates?
Yeah, we were living in the same building. So we lived like a floor in our first year.
So which crib did I go to? Did I go to yours or Chad's?
I think it was his, but we were in the same building. So
we were watching. It's 2011 now. 2011. Yeah, Joe, you know the year. 2011 NBA Finals. Who's playing? The Miami Heat versus the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh boy!
I watched that last game with these fellas.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Joe, big Heat fan at this time. My brother,
huge Heat fan.
My brother is a huge
Miami for life.
Listen, they both was Heat fans, and I'm in there because first of all, I'm mad because this is Derrick Rose MVP year.
Wow.
And you know, I'm like, they beat us the round before in the conference,
and the conference, was it Eastern Conference Finals?
Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
We losing that, but we had a team like you.
Oh
remember
that, and it's funny because we were talking about that a couple weeks ago. I forget who we had on, but I was talking about how that East, people act like that East was so trash, and I'm like, no, that Bulls team that LeBron put out the playoffs, that Bulls team was far from trash. That Pacers team, that Pacers team was legit. Like those, it was some tough. You're not
getting this.
That's a fact.
I'll give you the Bulls team. No, that Pacers team had 2 players on it.
This is revisionist history, bro. That Pacers team was tough. That Pacers team was smacking it. That Pacers team was smacking people around, bro. People forget, like Paul George
in the East.
Paul George was that guy, yo. I don't think people realize, like, Paul.
No, he wasn't. Not yet. Yes, he's actually better now than he was there.
I mean, of course,
he wasn't that guy yet. Like
he was that. He was.
The East was so weak that we actually propelled him up a little bit. But
bro,
the Bulls had a well-rounded team. They had
the Bulls were nice. The Bulls were nice.
Joakim Noah was playing like out of his mind at that time. Derrick Rose was literally like considered. It was Westbrook.
Bro, that Bulls team battled with the Pacers, bro. That Bulls team battled with the Pacers.
The Bulls team battled with every team because we were a defensive team, so every game was close.
I'm saying the Pacers can't be trash. They was on the same level. That Bulls team had.
No, the Bulls smashed the Pacers. I think they only got 2 games off us.
No.
If I could go back and remember, they only got 2 games.
No, they battled. They wasn't wiping the Pacers. They wasn't really wiping anybody off the floor. They was a tough team, but they wasn't running through people and just smacking people over. You know what I mean? I give that Bulls team their credit.
LeBron had that hard road that year. He's not getting it. He did have a rough Bulls matchup, even though LeBron did take it over them because the Bulls did miss another All-Star. Don't forget, Rose.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. It's not first of all, not even in the West was the Warriors had a hard road. It was when they got to that one team. There's always that team in your conference, you know what I'm saying? So my point is when he did have to do those runs, he had to get to that mountain, and there were mountains in the East. The Pacers were a mountain.
I don't think
Bulls
so.
were a mountain. The Celtics were a mountain. Like, everybody had to get to those mountains.
2011, the Bulls beat the Pacers 4-1.
Thank you. Didn't I just tell you? I thought they won 2 games.
That was that year.
That was just that year. But I mean, you know, the Magic lost to the Hawks.
Right.
The Hawks, you know, the
Celtics
were good.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the key matchup. That Celtics team was legit. That Celtics team won a championship, bro.
They were washed at that point.
Oh,
man.
come on, bro. I can't.
Like, they were washed. Like, I'll give you this.
Man.
This is my problem with this. My problem with this. Honestly, that team that LeBron assembled that year, I'm going to be really honest with you. There's no reason that they lost that year. And you know this.
Who are you talking about?
You were so heartbroken that game.
The Mavericks?
Yeah.
Bro, I don't see. It's funny because somebody said this on Twitter the other day. It's like it said nobody, and then it said LeBron haters. He shouldn't have lost in 2011, right? The point of the meme is nobody disputes that year he failed. That year that he fell short, right? I don't dispute that at all. I give that to him because I give everybody that same energy. I just want everybody else to do it because when Jordan was getting smacked out the playoffs in the first round, I want them to keep that same energy when they talk about it. That's what I'm saying. LeBron is allowed failures in my world. He might not be.
That Pippen guy wasn't on that team.
The same way that Jordan had to learn how to win because he got smacked around in the playoffs early on that we don't like to talk about. LeBron had to learn too, and that was his first year, and he learned through and he broke through and they went back to back.
No. That motherfucker was in the finals before. That was
no. That was his first year on that team. That team had just got put together, bro.
No, do you see that?
That was their first year.
They walked through the season like this all the way to the
Doesn't
final.
matter. It doesn't matter. It was their first year.
Name
another team who's
Dwayne Wade.
5 got thrown together in 1 year.
Dwayne Wade was the leader of that team that year. Let's.
And that was the problem. That's why they didn't win.
Elephant in the room. No.
That is why they didn't win.
No.
He said it. He said I had to tell LeBron that this is your team. This is your team. He had to learn how to win. My thing is, let's not act like Jordan didn't learn how to win. He did.
No, absolutely. But my thing is that it's not even for me about Miami losing. It's about the way he played.
Right. And once Jordan got an all-star by the name of Scottie Pippen, they never looked back.
Right. I don't care, bro. He lost. And 85. What I'm saying is, I don't care. He lost. Period. So to act like he didn't learn, he didn't have to learn. He took his lumps. In 85, he lost. In 86, he lost. In 87, he lost in the first. These are all first round losses. In 88, he lost. He lost in 88 in the second round. Then he lost in 89 in the Eastern Conference Finals to Detroit. Then he lost in 90 in the Eastern Conference Finals to Detroit. So this whole notion that 2011,
but LeBron had two all-stars.
This whole notion that 2011 is just such a huge. No, I don't want to hear that shit.
No. But he also. So what? But he played bad though. That's my. Exactly. It's not about winning or losing. He played bad. That's my
meltdown.
No. My issue is, again, we don't. No one says that we don't. He doesn't get a demerit for not winning that series. The fact of the matter is, he had to learn how to win just like everybody else did. Jordan lost the series where at the end of the series, the ball went off his hands and out of bounds. And that's how the series.
He didn't play bad, Joe.
That was a bad play. That was bad.
No, that was a bad play. We all have bad plays. He did play.
No. He did play bad. He did. By Jordan standards, he played bad. And he said that himself. Right?
Of course. He's the GOAT.
We just can't act like this is only a LeBron thing. You know what I'm saying? Magic Johnson had series where he played bad. They call him Tragic Johnson for a whole summer. I don't give a fuck if somebody plays bad.
You see what I do to Joe, right, JT? You see what I do to Joe?
I'm spitting facts though. I'm spitting facts though. Like, where's the?
No. I know, but
where's the lie? You know what I'm saying? Like we act like only LeBron has ever played bad. You know what I'm saying? And it's false.
No,
Joe,
it's false. But we're talking about. So Joe, let's break it down. Forget. We know that Jordan has had one or two bad games, but let's just say this. In the final.
1 or 2.
Hold on. In the final.
He that perfect.
The ultimate dance floor. I'm going to tell you this like it is. LeBron had no reason to play that bad when it came down to, I only have 4 games to win.
Bro, we still talking about one game. We still talking about one series, bro.
Who'd he lose to? Who'd he lose to?
Listen. Again, we still
lost to Dirk and Terry.
Dirk Nowitzki is a Hall of Famer, bro. I don't know.
I would be a Hall of Famer too if I beat that Heat team.
Again, we talking about one series. Like that's my thing. Like I can name you a bunch of other players and a bunch of other series.
Is LeBron better than Dirk? Is LeBron better than Dirk?
Is Jordan better than Isaiah Thomas?
Answer the question.
Is Jordan better? You answer the question. Is Jordan?
Okay,
what the fuck does that mean?
Like Jordan's not better than the Detroit Pistons.
Hold on.
They play football.
Hold on. Is Jordan better than Isaiah Thomas? Yes or no? What the fuck does that mean? Like, okay,
they played football.
Oh, come on.
Wait.
It's another layer.
The argument.
There's always another layer to it. Like
we're getting deep though. We get deep. I'm keeping it really simple. Like I'm not even talking about winning and losing. Like I think it's amazing that Jordan never lost in the finals because he would just step it up on the biggest. I think it's amazing, but that's to me
not amazing. When he didn't make it.
When you're when you're comparing,
not making the finals is not amazing. We gotta stop glorifying like
no. But again, from a numbers standpoint, which is a big part of the argument, I would like to find one game where numbers wise Jordan didn't show up. One game.
I know.
What you mean? Game. Hold on. So now when LeBron loses in the finals, hold on. Let me ask you a question, because we do this too. We don't keep the same energy. So now when LeBron loses in the finals and leads his team in every stat, no one says what they said about what you just said about Jordan. They just said it doesn't matter. He was stat stuffing, and it doesn't matter that he lost.
It's not that it does. It's not that it doesn't matter. We're talking about 2011 when he led the team in assists and averaged 17 points a game.
I'm talking about your theory. I'm saying we can't pick and choose when we want to use these theories. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
it's
again,
not a theory.
You didn't say that about Jordan when Jordan lost, and he was
I'm not saying a theory. I'm saying win or lose, LeBron played awful. His numbers were bad.
Listen.
The greatest all-around player of all time, which I say he is, played bad. Really bad.
And again, I can name you legendary greats. I can name you legendary greats who had bad series. So
I agree.
That to me doesn't mean it. That's my point. Like,
but we're comparing two guys. Is the argument?
He did. So my whole thing is we got to keep that same energy, because we act like Jordan didn't fail and Jordan didn't get swept in the first round and Jordan never had bad moments or bad games. He did. So we just had somebody just sit up here and say this man played 16 years, 14 years. Jordan.
No, he played longer than that.
How many seasons did Michael Jordan play?
I think he played. I know he played at least 15 years.
Okay, we just had somebody sit up here on live, not live podcast and say a man who played 15 years only had 1 or 2 bad games. Talk about revisionist history. Like, are we serious?
No.
Like, come on, bro. He had 1 or 2 bad games in 15 years.
So, Joe, you got to understand, if you really look at it, I'm glad we actually saw The Last Dance, because it actually showed me some things that I actually didn't know behind the scenes. Like, I didn't know how hard he was on his players, because in reality, he really was that second coach on the team. Just like LeBron's the second coach, or the first coach. I'll give him that props. But Jordan was that second coach to actually be that tough on his players, because you've seen that the atmosphere of the climate of the NBA where they were so aggressive and so physical. It was that bad that you can't be a chump and be on the court. And the way he played,
I don't understand what your point is.
My point is,
my only point is that not only did Jordan fail, but he had more than 2 bad games. Like, so to me, you telling me that 2011
that's why I was going to get into
for me
he didn't have any bad games.
I don't want us to get to stray too far from the mark, right? The meat and potatoes is we talking about one series in 1 year, right? So to me, I don't dispute that he had a bad series. I dispute that it somehow demotes him from his being great as he is. Again, I can tell you great. Larry Bird had 2 finals games in which he scored 8 fucking points. Magic Johnson was called Tragic Johnson for a whole season because of the.
Joe, you're right. Joe,
Kareem had 2 years, which in the middle of his prime, he didn't even make the playoffs.
So to me, I'm not comparing him to Magic Johnson.
No. It's not about that. It's about the fact that, to me, I gave you Jordan, Magic. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's not about us saying, "Oh, LeBron had a bad game." It's about acting like somehow that demotes him from being great or being in the GOAT conversation. Like, so what? Everybody else did too.
Because that was so ugly.
Oh, it was just too bad.
Not one, not two, not three.
Now we putting levels on him.
He was the first, that superstar squad, and you played that bad. Like, how? You don't even have to play.
Right. So
to be that good.
So now that demotes everything else that he's done.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's again, we're comparing two guys, so it's just you have to look at what they did on the biggest stages in the league, which is the final.
You can't compare when you don't acknowledge the failures that the other guy had. That to me, that's not a comparison.
We do acknowledge the failures that Jordan had.
Rick don't acknowledge shit. Like Rick just said that he only had 2 bad games in 15 years. Rick not acknowledging anything.
I'll tell you the failure.
He's a unicorn.
He smoked too many cigars.
He never stubbed his toe. Jordan don't even bleed red to Rick. Like, it's like he never said a bad word. He never did a bad deed.
I told you. He smoked too many cigars.
Listen, Jordan
loved gambling.
Jordan had plenty of fail. Jordan used to lose in golf all the time, Joe.
We got to get out of here.
All the time.
We got to go. We got to get out of here.
You lose in poker. He lose in dice.
In 1995.
He even lost in ping pong.
In 1995, Jordan lost to the Magic by throwing the ball out of bounds, and that's how the series ended. I don't want to hear about failures and people. We gotta go. We closing on this. Ezekiel Elliott is one of four or five players that actually tested positive for COVID from the Cowboy roster. Yeah.
When was this?
This was just yesterday, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
that's good news for you guys.
Bro. We had a half a team and still won the division and went to the playoffs.
Yo, those Cowboys look good though right now.
They look good every year. Every year they look good. I'm using air quotes if y'all can't see us. Every year the Cowboys look good. They're gonna win it every year. Guess who the favorite to come out of the East this year again? The Cowboys. Guess who was last year? The Cowboys. Guess who didn't even make the playoffs last year? The Cowboys.
I actually root for Philly in that division, to be honest with you.
You should. If you're smart, you do, because we better. Like we won the division. We got the most recent championship. The Cowboys is a smoke and mirrors, bro. And they've been that way.
The only thing I'll give you is the quarterback situation would confuse a lot of things. With Andy Dalton and Dak not really being there, I think that's gonna hurt the situation more than anything. Yeah. But besides that, I think that they have a new coach, which they needed. I don't think that they have time to gel because of COVID, so there's no offseason. So I think that's going to hurt them. But I do think that Philly wins that division.
Bro, we was pulling guys out the stands and throwing them on the field and winning games toward the end of the season. Meanwhile, the Cowboys roster stacked and loaded. They stacked again this year. They still
the problem with Jerry Jones is that there's always too much going on off the field.
Right.
And now he screwed himself because I like Andy Dalton. He's not as good as Dak Prescott. And because you made Dak feel like he isn't really all that wanted, now you're stuck in a situation where it's not even about the contract now. It's about all this tumultuous bullshit that you keep creating because you're not doing shit the way you're supposed to do it. And it's now why you haven't won Super Bowls since the 90s.
Right.
Because you're not – there's always too much shit going on off the field so that you get on the field and that's not how that team's supposed to operate.
Yeah, they all glitz and no glory. Like, it's a lot of talking, a lot of tweeting, a lot of this is our year. Every year, it's a lot of shiny roster. They roster looks shiny as hell on paper, but it do every year.
The Yankees always find a way to get stacked teams.
Yeah.
What drama do you ever hear about them off the field?
Yeah.
Zero. There's never any drama.
Yeah.
What drama do you hear about the Patriots off the field other than Hernandez?
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
That's not how an organization's supposed to be ran.
Well, you got Robert Kraft, so they kind of started.
That's a wild bull. Robert Kraft is a wild bull.
But even that, even with all the craziness that's happened and the cheating and stuff, like they still like that's it. There's no like drama. There's no contract drama. There's no players arguing drama. There's no lack of leadership. That's another problem. Your leader, the guy that's supposed to be your leader, is the most disgruntled guy on the team now.
Yeah.
Right,
Dak's the most level-headed guy on that team. That's why we all like him. That's why we like him, even though he's not a top 5, top 8, maybe not even a top 10 quarterback. We root for Dak because we like Dak because he's a good dude.
Mm.
and you screw it all up, not taking care of your guys.
And
but you do take care of Zeke, who's been in more trouble in his first few years than Dak's been in his entire life.
And on top of that, you have an owner who's constantly undermining his coach and his coach's leadership and authority. So he wants a puppet and a coach instead of getting a real coach, right? So
exactly.
Whoever that's the thing that I'm not worried about them ever doing anything in our division, because until Jerry Jones steps down, that's when you want me to be nervous? Tell me Jerry Jones quit. I'm like, oh shit. Like,
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he thinks that he's a coach, and how many owners is doing press conferences after the games? Who does
It's because he's the biggest star on the team.
That's a problem.
He's the biggest star on the freaking team. Another problem was Al Davis with the Raiders. The real problem with Al Davis was he used to be a coach. Not only was he a coach, he won a Super Bowl as a coach.
Right.
So he could be 90 years old, which he was super old then, and he was literally going crazy.
Right.
But he knew better than everybody because he was a Super Bowl winning coach.
Right.
These guys make it all about them. Same thing. He's doing press conferences after the games.
They're not going to go anywhere until they bring a coach in who's not a puppet of the owner and who has the free range to use his own mouth and use his own ideas. The last real coach that they had was it Bill Parcells? And he quit because he was like, I'm not doing this. Right. And it's been puppets ever since.
He ran what's his name out? Jimmy Johnson. He ran Jimmy Johnson out.
Yeah.
Maybe the best coach they've ever had.
Yeah, because he had his own
in their heyday.
Ever had,
Yeah. So they don't scare me a bit. We're gonna win this division again, and we're going back to the Super Bowl this year. Rick, thanks so much for joining the show.
The NFC and our NFC?
That's right.
In our NFC?
Thanks so
much. Porn star Jimmy, let's go.
Porn star Jimmy. Shout out to porn star Jimmy. Rick, tell the people where they can follow you and how they can support anything that you got going on right now.
You can follow me actually on selfwillofficial.com. I have my own motivational brand. So you can
I rock a shirt, one of Rick's shirts.
I got to send both of you guys some shirts.
Yeah, we got to get some shirts so we can rock it on the show. Rick, I can tell you firsthand, Rick's shirts are dope. They always have there you go. They always have some type of motivational. My favorite one says, nobody cares, work harder.
Speaking of that one.
That's my favorite shirt.
You're right. Now, Joe, you know when I started that. I don't know how many years.
This was a couple years ago.
So did you see who rocked it this past football season?
No.
Quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens?
Nuh-uh.
Did he really?
He actually took the phrase. He was in press conferences with it. You could just Google it right now. You'll see it. All you do is type in his name and type in Nobody Cares Work Hard. You'll see a picture of it.
That's his shirt that you wear, the Nobody Cares Work Harder?
That's his shirt, yeah.
Oh, I love that shirt.
So, I came out with that in 2015.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
We just came out with that last year. So if you go under my my website or my my Instagram page, Self-Will,
okay,
you'll see that. And when he, but I'm gonna tell you, when he posted it, I actually got so many sales.
Oh, wow.
week. And when he wore it in the press conference, I got a lot of sales. So it worked out.
That's dope.
I love it. I love that shirt, and I love a lot of the messages that they have. So definitely log on and support the clothing line. It's a lot of cool stuff on there. Obviously it's a Black-owned business, so there's that too. Share, support, and spread the word. You can follow me at JoeConnor33 everywhere. Be sure to like and subscribe on the Facebook page and turn on your notifications so you know when we are dropping a video. You can also continue to stream and follow us on everywhere that your podcasts are available. So that's Apple Music. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Yeah.
Very nice. You can find me, JT Harker, at JT Harker everywhere. And again, new single came out June 5th, Drunk People. It's autobiographical. It's all about my life.
And the music video is coming soon, right?
And we got a music video coming soon. It's going to be, I don't want to let out too much, but Joe, I haven't even told you some of the other clips I've got from other people. It's going to be dope.
Uh-oh. Okay,
so let me ask you a question before you hang up. You do country music. Nashville, do you the scene? Is that where you started off from?
No, Joe knows my whole journey because he's been my drummer the whole time I started this band. I was in a different band that wasn't my own. And then we started this band, 5 years ago. And then we played a cruise with some big name Nashville guys and some industry people. And I got discovered on the cruise and invited out to work with this producer writer who's now one of my label owners. And so I actually got signed without having to move out there, which is still to this day kind of unheard of. So very grateful and kind of crazy how it happened.
Good shit.
Yep. Okay, guys, until next time, this has been the Backstage Sports Podcast. Please be safe and be great. Peace.